Hi there, Martin Bryant with you again, giving you tips, tricks and a path through from start to finish for your driving lessons, your driving test, learning to drive a car on British roads. On our last video we just did a quick intro and a run through the process of applying for your provisional driving license. Hopefully that's come through now, it's in your hand and you're excited and you're raring to go. While you've been waiting for your license, no doubt you've been doing a little bit of research online, seeing what's involved, maybe checking out some driving schools, and you've probably found out there's a lot out there, isn't there? There's loads. How do you choose? What is important in a driving school? What's important to you? Is it reputation? Are you worried? Are you concerned about how good the instructor is, what their pass rates are, how quickly they can get you through your test, how many lessons you're going to need, how much it's going to cost? Of course, that's really important as well, isn't it? You've probably seen a lot of deals out there, sort of, which makes it look very kind of cost effective. Some startup deals, maybe, I don't know, first lesson for £1, £50 for 10 lessons, something like that. They can be good. What you've got to think about when you look at the prices that instructors are charging, driving schools are charging, is how can they do it for the money? There's a slight problem I've got with this, in that I mean, I've been a driving instructor now for 5 years, as you know, and I know how much it costs to run a driving school in terms of the car, the maintenance of the car, insurance, tax, MOT, fuel. I mean, you know how much petrol or diesel costs. And when you look at these cheap deals that these schools are offering, you've got to ask yourself how they do that, how they make a profit when that's all that they charge. Now, I'm not going to diss any driving schools in particular, but I do know that sometimes, in order to make the numbers work, they may sort of set you a little bit short. So you may find yourself not actually doing an awful lot of driving. For example, you sat at the side of the road doing a lot of talking, and at the end of the day, you want to drive. That's the best way to learn to drive, is to drive. You might find that you're not quite getting the time that you've been promised. Maybe you're in for an hour lesson and you're getting yourself dropped off after 3/4 of an hour. That's what you've got to be wary of when you go down the cheap deal route. They don't all do that, but it's just things that I've heard about. What I'm saying here is, you know, cheap deals, they're not always maybe that offer you the value that you might think that you're going to get. I'm paying that a little bit more, you know, a more expensive instructor, maybe that suggests quality and value to you rather than the cheaper ones. Okay, so as I say, if you call in to speak to driving instructors, ask them what the pass rate is. Ask them for some read-ups that you can do from past pupils. Ask around, you know, the people that you know, friends, family. Is there anybody that you know of that's learning to drive as well? And, you know, are they with a school? Are they with their instructor? What have they got to say about that instructor? You know, it might be that they're well impressed with them. They're doing really well with them, and, you know, a little referral to yourself will do you good, and, you know, you can get with them as well, and you'll get a good deal and a good sort of standard of instruction. Things to look for. Okay, well, in order for an instructor to charge, in order for an instructor to make a living, basically, they've got to have one of these. Okay, there's my badge. Okay, it's green, and that means that I'm legally entitled to teach people to learn to drive cars, basically. Okay, so my number on the back, my photograph, and the date on the front showing that it's valid. Now, when I'm teaching, that has got to be on display somewhere in the car. I usually have it in the windscreen somewhere on a little clip. Now, just because it's not there doesn't mean I can't teach. The only difference is that I couldn't charge for it. So that's one thing to look for. When you meet your instructor, ask to see their badge. Make sure it's on display. If it isn't on display, you know, maybe you're 3 or 4 lessons in and you notice it's not there, little trip, don't say anything till the end of the lesson. And then when they try and charge you for the lesson, just point out the fact the badge isn't there, and that should then be a free lesson to you, because they can't charge. Now, another point to make here is about private tuition. Somebody might say to you, oh, I'll teach you to drive. They're not a qualified instructor, but they're offering to teach you to drive. Now, I'm not saying that can't work, okay? But first thing, they haven't got one of these, so they can't charge you any money. And when we say money, we're talking about money or money's worth. So they can't charge you for the fuel either. You know, you can't pay them in, I don't know, sort of cigarettes or whatever. You can't make payment for any kind. They can't make a charge of any kind for the driving lesson, unless they've got one of these. Okay, so that's the first thing to note. If you do go with private tuition, make sure that it's all legal. Okay, so the car that you're going to drive, you need to make sure for yourself that you're legally entitled to drive that car. In other words, you're insured, you're on the insurance policy. And it's always worth making sure, looking to see some documentation rather than just taking somebody's word for it. I've heard so many stories of people saying, well, I thought I was insured, instead of double checking. And in this business, if you trust to look, you know, without double checking, you might come unstuck. And if it turns out you're not insured and you get pulled for it for any reason, points are going to go on your license. They won't go on the other person's license, because you're the one that's driving the car illegally. And once you've got points on your license, getting the insurance details, insurance policy once you're qualified, can be murder. It'll be so expensive. Or worse, what happens if you do have a little bump or something worse while you're on lesson? Again, if you're not insured, you've got no fallback at all. You could find yourself in a lot of bother. So make sure for yourself, ask to see the documentation. If you're in doubt, just don't do it, or check with the insurance company and make sure for yourself. Private tuition, as I say, it can work. I have known people learn with friends and family. The one thing that you've got to remember, though, is that person is not trained to give driving lessons, and it's not as easy as you might think. It is quite a challenging job to sit in the left-hand side of the car and still maintain control. Now, I've got my dual controls. I've got a set of pedals on the floor, which means that I can slow and stop the car if I want to. And in a private car, you probably haven't got that. So, as I say, it can work, but it's better to think in terms of paying the money, and doing things properly and getting yourself a professional set of driving lessons, which should be tailored to your way of learning. They're structured, and they'll take you all the way from beginning right up to your driving test and beyond, really. Okay, so when you're looking at the driving schools, price is obviously going to be a concern. Reputation, word of mouth, it's brilliant. If you speak to somebody about it and they say, oh, Fred Blogs or Annie Jones from down the road, they did me, I passed first time. There's nothing like a recommendation like that for you to make contact and try it for yourself. Okay, if not, you can ask about pass rates. I mean, there's no guarantees in what's said there, because the pass rate number can be a little bit meaningless, but it can help a little bit in terms of making a decision. But the best thing to do is ask around, and there's plenty of people learning to drive. There's bound to be somebody who's either going through the process or knows somebody who's going through the process when you're looking at as well. And again, if you've got any doubts at all, you can email us, you can call us. I have some local schools in the area that I'd be more than happy to recommend for all sorts of reasons. I'm happy to discuss that with you at any point that you would like to talk about that. Okay, so that's all for today. Keep an eye on your inbox. On the next session, we're going to be talking about the theory side of learning to drive. You know that you've got to prepare for and take a theory test, and there's mistakes that can be made here. There's shortcuts that some people like to try and take, and it's just not worth it. There's a way that we've got to go about this in order to make sure that our theory knowledge of what we're going to do is what it should be. So watch out for your inbox. That email will be coming to you very, very soon. Bye-bye for now.